अस्सलाम वालेकुम स्टूडेंट्स। टुडे वी आर रीडिंग चैप्टर नंबर 1 निकोबॉबिनस। हम इसका चैप्टर नंबर जो 1 है यानी कि फर्स्ट पार्ट जो है वो ऑलरेडी रीड कर चुके हैं। टुडे वी आर रीडिंग चैप्टर नंबर 2, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। Nicobobinus ran as fast as he could, across the lawn, down the path, around a hedge, and into a little shed, and bottled the door. "Open up!" cried the man, and the hinges creaked and the door shook, and he banged it with his fist. "The door's not going to last long," thought Nicobobinus to himself, and he dragged a large old stone roller up against it. "Open this door at once, do you hear? Here is D is the short form of do." The man was shouting, but Nicobobinus didn't hear anything at all. He was too amazed by what he had found. "You'll have to come out eventually," the man was saying, "and the longer you leave it, the worse it'll be for you." But he could have saved his breath. Nicobobinus was on his knees, examining what he had revealed. When he moved the roller, he brushed off the dust and undid the catch and then lifted it up. "Right, I'm going to break this door down," said the man, and then because he knew he would have. Here is D is the short form of wood. He would have to repair the door himself, he added. "Do you hear?" But Nicobobinus didn't hear. Nicobobinus had disappeared through the trap door he had discovered, and was running down stone steps that were slippery with slime and that smelt of graveyards, and that went down and down, deeper into the ground, until it became pitch black. "Rosie," said Nicobobinus to himself, "this is all your fault." He heard his heart pounding and his steps echoing along the dank rock of the narrow passageway, until all at once there was nothing. Before he realized, he was falling in the blackness. Several thoughts flashed through his mind at the same time. The first was something along the lines of brother, only a bit under. The second was a rather unkind thought about his best friend, who had instigated the whole expedition, and it involved her dangling over a snake pit, while numerous fierce dragons flew at her, chanting, How could you do it to him? Poor Nicobobinus." The third thought was, "Suppose it's a well, a deep, unused well, with slimy, slippery sides that you could never climb, and icy water at the bottom there." At this point, he discovered it was not a well. He made this discovery very suddenly and very painfully. "Oh," said Nicobobinus, and he lay there in the pitch blackness with not a single breath left in his body. For what seemed like the whole winter, but was probably only a few seconds. He came to himself, in fact, just as a stone hit him on the head. "Oh," said Nicobobinus again, and then realized he could hear footsteps high above him. "Stop, sir," he called out, but the footsteps kept on coming down. "Aha, I have got you now. Here's V is the short form of have. I have got you now," cried the man, "and I shall beat every bone in your body until it is a black end." Nicobobinus supposed the man was going to say blue, but in fact the next word he uttered sounded more like, so this is a sound of his. It was not a word with which Nicobobinus was at all familiar, but he understood its meaning perfectly and moved smartly out of the way. Crash. "Are you all right?" he asked. There was silence. Nicobobinus felt his way back in the pitch dark until his hand touched the man's leather jerkin. The man was lying as still as death, but he was breathing. "I must get help," said Nicobobinus to himself, and he began groping around in the blackness to find another way out. When he found it, however, his heart sank. The only exit appeared to be a narrow gap down by the floor no more than a foot high. I can't scream through that in the pitch dark, he said to himself, but at that very moment he heard Rosie's cheerful voice saying, "You can do it." Gobinus span round and there to his immense surprise was nothing. "No, Rosie, nobody, no anybody. But I don't know if it leads anywhere," said the voice in his head, "and it's such a tight squeeze I might get stuck." He didn't hear Rosie's voice again, but he knew what it would have said, and that was how he found himself wriggling down a narrow passage of stone in the pitch black. He screamed and he wriggled. He wriggled there is the black for a long, long time, and the tunnel got narrow until he could hardly inch along it. "I'm going back," he said to himself, but he didn't. He just kept wriggling and screaming until suddenly he found he could stand up. He took a pace forward and immediately fell over stone steps leading up. "Oh," he said, although what he really meant was, "Thank goodness." He began to climb, and he was still climbing some minutes later. "It must be a tower," he thought, "or the grandest house in Venice." But at that very moment he saw a crack of light. He stretched out his hand and found himself touching a catch that clicked softly in the dark. A panel suddenly slid up, and Nicobobinus stepped through into the most amazing room you'd ever seen. Here is D is also the form of wood. सो नेक्स्ट वीडियो में हम इसकी एक्सरसाइज करेंगे, तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।